Hey everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What is shaking in your 2025? Stanley Cross is here. Oh my goodness, Stan the man. Yes, I every now and then check on the Urban Landlord channel and see what's up. I believe was it early this morning I was watching, or late last night? Stanley was showing a video report on the shootings down in New Orleans. And he said, now before I get this going, this was produced by a major news organization. So every now and then I'm going to throw up an overlay over the screen so that, we don't get nailed for any sort of violations outside the terms of fair use. So everybody just be ready, realize that I'm going to be throwing up an overlay over the top. It'll be a picture of something so that we don't get in any trouble. He starts playing the thing. Well, yesterday in New Orleans, of course, 15 people or more are dead and over 30 injured. Hey, Stanley, there's something on this. I swear to God, it wasn't even 30 seconds. And Stanley, with the patience of Solomon, re-explained the whole thing. And then I watched something else. I was just laughing too hard to watch anymore. We have a lot to cover here. Today, I'm going to tell you all about Fred Hampton. Some of you, maybe even most of you, don't know who Fred Hampton is, and that is a tragedy because Fred Hampton is one of the greatest injustices ever perpetrated in the United States of America. A man assassinated by his own government. Most believe, and when I say most, I mean if you have a pulse or any blood running through your brain at all. I'd like to thank my good friend the Wolf, who I've again and again said, don't give me money. We're friends. I don't have a way to give you money back, and you would make it difficult for me. But thank you very, very much. I don't drink, so I can't buy liquor. I'll buy a pizza and fold it in half and think of you while I eat it. I sent out some good thoughts to our good friend Diana O'Brien. I saw some photos of Diana over the holidays, and she looked like she was with family and friends and having a nice time. A different hairstyle, perhaps, than we're used to, but hopefully she is doing well. Terry Nee is here. I mentioned, of course, the aforementioned Stanley Cross. Can't get enough of him. I tuned in also today and saw that someone was unraveling the Thorne family. You go from political discourse to Hey, Stanley, I don't think it's work. Did you not hear 10 seconds earlier? I don't know. Maybe I should hire somebody to do that on this show. We'll be talking about Fred Hampton today. Hey, Tom, what are you going to talk about today? Did you get those new eyeglasses you was wanting? Okay, whatever. Oh, wow, says Stanley. Yes. Dupa is here. Dupa saying hi to everybody. And people saying hi, people saying hi. The Wolf says, Stanley, buy me that ring. I don't know. He's laughing. Buy me that ring. Come on. He tripped and fell down the stairs. Who? Fred Hampton? Yeah, he did. Let's see. Terry Nee says, clap your hands, everybody. Everybody, clap your hands. Clap your hands. Clap your hands. I've been watching Dark Shadows. I'm on to episode 321 now. And much like if you watch a trial, if you watch a lot of court TV, if you watch court TV for like longer than a week, you start speaking in court TV language. And by that, I mean not the, analysts, but the people that are doing the trial. Mr. Warfield, did there come a time when you became acquainted with the product known as Pervitin? And it was this product that you knew to be called pervitine. I mean, you talk that way. Well, I've been watching Dark Shadows. So everything on Dark Shadows is one half soap opera and one half monsters and stuff. So Barnabas Collins, it's always, Mr. Collins, we'd like to search your home. We think David may have escaped and his little boy has found a way into your house. Well, I don't object to that at all, except you mustn't go in the cellar. I mean, everything is blah, 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 blah. Actual thing I want to say, because anyway, I don't know why everybody had to know that, but that's what I've been going. That's what I've been living with, folks. People saying hi. Terry Nee says, I know someone who's up to the job. Every channel needs an Otis the Town Drunk. Yes, but your channel has 10 Otis the Town Drunks in one person. And it's not like Solid Snake, who's super entertaining, although annoying and over the top sometimes. I think even he gets that. But Solid Snake, I like him. He is likable. That other guy, there's nothing. There's nothing to like at all. Nothing. Nothing. What the hell was that? Oh. Don't forget to stamp your feet to the rhythm of the boogity beat. That's right. The funk was flaming, out of control. I heard somebody say, burn, baby, burn. It's a disco inferno. Yes. You don't know how many times I'm very tempted to jump in there and just say one thing and leave. But I don't, because I can't. Because then that's validating. I just can't. When the Thorn guy's on, oh, God, if he ever accidentally dialed into here, I would have him crying like a little schoolgirl in about 30 seconds. There is a guy, if you take all of the sort of the arrogance of Ryan and you combine it with none of the intelligence of Ryan and way more self-aggrandizing, it's all about me, and the giant leaps of racial understanding statements he makes, I mean, for crying out loud. I know things. I'm a person that knows things or finds things out. I would never make a statement on behalf of an entire race of people, particularly one that I did not belong to. But that guy, he got no problem. Let's see here. The Wolf says, no, I'm responding to Terry's clap your hands. It's a little Stevie Wonder. I know what it is. That's why I went to the Disco Inferno. Please. Boogie on Reggae Woman. Whoa, what you trying to do? Songs in the Key of Life, Secret Life of Planet. I've got them all. All of them. All the Stevie. I've got all the things. All the Stevie Wonder. Muscle Beach Party. I prefer horror at Party Beach. Look that one up. All right, so where was I? Oh, I'm going to tell you about Fred Hampton. That's one of the many things. Please like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, all the free things you can do to help us with the algorithm, the all-powerful, almighty, all-seeing algorithm. And then also we do have super chats. We do have memberships. Avail yourself of those if you would like, and we would love it. We'd love to be making a little more of that in 2025 than we made in 2024. But then also turn on your gifted memberships. Many kind people do get memberships here. And then you get to watch our weekend show, which has very little marginal utility. That didn't have a 9-year-old Stevie. Yeah, excuse me. I believe he was called Little Stevie Wonder at that time. Thank you. Terry Nee says, I usually stay at Hampton's. Hampton Inns. Reno Hightower says, oh, damn, you started without me. Hello, chat. Oh, hey, Tom. Oh, hey, Terry. Oh, hey, Reno. Yeah. So people saying hi. People saying hi. Metal Maiden Vicky is here. She's got a show on tomorrow, which I believe airs from, no, wait, day after tomorrow, excuse me, on Sonic Asylum Radio that airs from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm thinking I'm right, but I might not. I already said that, TG. Oh, it's little Stevie Wonder. I thought you said it's a little Stevie Wonder. Metal Main Vicky said, I was laughing at your Dark Shadows commentary before. Spot on. Oh, yes, it's very. Barnabas, I was wondering. Maggie seems to be going into town more often. Do you think she may remember who attacked her? Well, Doctor, I hope not for your sake. You know what would happen if she was to remember. Oh, Barnabas. People saying hi. Okay, 3 p.m. to 8. I knew that 3 p.m. was in there somewhere. 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. Now it's etched in my mind forever. But yeah, tell you what, Dark Shadows. Anyway, I like on Dark Shadows the real tense moments with the little horn stings come in. That dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Anyway, I did. I bet you guys been dying to know about Fred Hampton. I bet you've been dying to know about Fred Hampton. Just dying to know about Fred Hampton. What else do I got here? 5 hours of sheer metal madness. Well, and Metal Maiden Vicky can tell you better than I can. No, it's more than that. Because, and I hope there's the segment that's still called, it was in honor of her late sister, Lori's Just Dance a Few, which is kind of a dance, anything, got a groove to it. Got to have groove to it. Now, some might be metal, but some might be disco. Some might be pop. Some might be little Stevie Wonder, signed, sealed, delivered. Some might be later Stevie Wonder, Boogie on Reggae Woman, like I said, Superstition, Living for the City. I mean, you know. They say that heaven is 10 million miles away. I had that on 8-track. Ariana May is here. Hola, amigos. Hola, señorita. ¿Cómo está? Metal Maiden Vicky says that many similarities to soap operas today. Someone always talking to the matriarch portrait on the wall. Someone always throws their drink at the fireplace, a drink they made from the stock liquor. Yeah, everybody got a drink back then. Everybody had a drink. Decanters in the main drawing room. Yes, of course, of course. Because most of the current soap operas don't have the mausoleum. Very few mausoleums. Hard Times, Mississippi, yeah. Her clothes are old, but never are they dirty. All right, and dough is for so-and-so's sake. Let's see here. Brandy. Oh, it's brandy. Sometimes sherry. Sometimes a bit of sherry. Oops, meant to type and. Do it for so-and-so's sake. And she also does the alphabet attack, which is awesome. There's 2 letters, usually. And one letter, if she says it's like W and E, the W would be the band, and the E is the song. So the band's name's got to begin with the W. The E's got to be the beginning of the song. And so I would have said, The Who, Eminence Front. By the way, it's a put-on. So she's got just a great show. And she does these awesome interviews with the people. Many people debut their albums on her show. And she's got great people in the chat room that Steve Bellow, and just phenomenal magicians and musicians that normally you wouldn't be able to, but on her, you can. I shorthanded that. Let me see. Metal Maiden Vicky says, I might be able to bring myself to start up my Lori's Just Dance a Few segment again. Oh, you should. You know she'd want you to. It's such a fitting tribute, and she was so into it. And, yeah. She's a wonderful person. Okay, so see, Vicky, I've been watching Metal Drummers on Drumeo. Oh yeah, the wolf goes to sleep to Drumeo. Yes, starting to line up some interviews for the new year. You and me both. Yes, you are. Well, of course I'm right. I'm generally, All right. Let me tell you about this fella, a fella that you should know about by the name of Fred Hampton. Okay? So, Fred Hampton, this is going to freak you out, this story, regardless of how you feel about the politics. And you should probably factor in, number one, this gentleman's age, and number two, the time he was living in, those very turbulent, tumultuous late 60s, when people were questioning their government quite a bit. Fred Hampton was, yes, an American Marxist, Leninist revolutionary. Even in his late teenage years, he was just rising through the ranks of the Black Panther Party. He was the chair of its Illinois chapter, as a matter of fact. Very progressive African-American. He founded the anti-racist, anti-classist Rainbow Coalition, which was members of vast groups racially and politically. And he also was responsible for the Young Lords, which was a Chicago street gang that turned into a civil rights and human rights organization, as well as forming an alliance among Chicago street gangs. He pointed out to them, look, if you keep fighting each other, nobody wins. If we all band together and control this situation, we can all prosper. He felt that the U.S. government was a fascist government. And at the time, and you'll see some of it as I continue here, kind of had a point. Here's another picture of Mr. Hampton and speaking out in one of his many civil rights speeches. So anyway, he grew up in kind of a smaller part of Illinois, but it was a city in Cook County where Chicago is, and his parents had moved to Chicago from Louisiana as part of that great migration of African Americans in the early 20th century from the South. And they worked for a cornstarch processor, if that means anything. He was very gifted in not only the classroom, but also the athletic field. He had a dream of playing center field for the New York Yankees. Obviously, didn't achieve that. He was only 10 years old when he began getting breakfast made on weekends for other children in the neighborhood who maybe couldn't afford breakfast. And he would cook the meals themselves. He later transformed that program into what he was doing with the Black Panther Party, which was a free breakfast program. So when he turned 18, he started to identify heavily with struggles in the third world, social, political struggles, Che Guevara, Ho Chi Minh, Mao Zedong. And he didn't just want peace in Vietnam. He wanted the Vietnamese to win that war and have their country back. He became extremely active in the NAACP and became a youth organizer. He had about 500 youth members that he managed to get together and basically put them to work, creating recreational facilities in neighborhoods and offering additional education resources and training for the very impoverished black community that he lived in. And as he started to rise up the ranks, as his language got more and more subversive, at least in the minds of the U.S. government, he started to get on the radar of some people that you did not want to be on the radar of back in the late 60s. Now, let me just read one quote from Fred Hampton, and it'll give you an idea of why some of these people were taking a look at him. We got to face some facts. That the masses are poor, and that the masses belong to what you call the lower class. And when I talk about the masses, I'm talking about the white masses, I'm talking about the black masses, I'm talking about the brown masses and the yellow masses too. We've got to face the fact that some people say you fight fire best with fire, but we say you put out fire best with water. We say you don't fight racism with racism. We're going to fight racism with solidarity. We say you don't fight capitalism with black capitalism. You fight capitalism with socialism. So, yeah, not popular words in this day and age. Imagine how the establishment felt about words like that back then, particularly coming from a charismatic individual, good at speaking and good at rounding people up and practicing what he preached. For example, in 1969, while the deputy chairman of the Black Panther Party, he basically called a meeting where he condemned sexism of any kind. He's like, we're not doing that here. And this is in 1969. He said, this is counter-revolutionary. True revolutionary thought is equality. And so a year later, about half of the party members were women. Now, in 1968, he was accused of stealing an ice cream truck. Not the money. $71 of ice cream bars. And what did he do with them? He just gave them to kids in the street. Now, that's what he was accused of. And he was convicted. He did a little time in prison. But, and we're going to do a show on COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO was a series of covert activities by the U.S. government from about 1956 to 1971, and they would surveil, infiltrate, discredit, disrupt, and destroy anyone they thought was subversive. And, of course, this is highly illegal. And we'll get into more of their they wiretapped, they did anything they wanted to do. And then they wrote it off with, well, these people aren't real Americans like we are. So Hampton started becoming more and more successful in Chicago. He got all the street gangs to sign this non-aggression pact. And he basically said, look, if you keep doing this, you are guaranteeing that all of your members will live in poverty for as long as you live. And that's why he was so heavily anti-racist, class-conscious, multiracial. Anyway, he was trying to negotiate between the police and a group called the Young Lords that he ended up turning into a civil rights group. And he would be arrested from time to time in pickets or protests. But as he did this, members of this Rainbow Coalition started to join him in Chicago. Now, a few of these players in the Rainbow Coalition were actually based in Chicago. So that was a layup. But their disciples across the country also started to join the Rainbow Coalition. So that threatened the government even more. Students for a Democratic Society, the Brown Berets, AIM, the Red Guard Party, all of these start to join nationally. Okay? So he rises up the ranks of the Black Panthers because he's a great organizer, an amazing public speaker, very charismatic. And so once he became the leader in Chicago, he has been named to the leadership council of the Black Panther Party. And as COINTELPRO began to really crush the nationwide Panther leadership, they had problems with Hampton because he was becoming more and more popular. He was becoming more and more visible. He was becoming more and more acceptable to white audiences. And he was in line to be the Black Panther Party's Central Committee Chief of Staff. And had what happened not happened, he was slated to be that. In subsequent years, we found out a lot about what happened to Fred Hampton. J. Edgar Hoover, well-known cross-dresser and hater of anything liberal, he did not want there to be a cohesive black movement in the United States. So he thought the Panthers, the Young Patriots, the Young Lords, all of those were a stepping stone to a revolution. He thought they would overthrow the government. So they started a file on Hampton. They tapped his mother's phone. They started creating what they called an agitator's index. And most importantly, every story got to have a snitch, a bad guy. Well, the FBI Chicago field office got this guy named William O'Neill to work with it. Okay, now he was a thief. He'd been arrested twice for car theft and also for impersonating a federal officer, ironically. And in exchange for having all those felonies dropped and getting a monthly paycheck, he agreed to go undercover to infiltrate the Black Panther Party as a counterintelligence operative. So he joins the party and actually rises up the ranks as well. He's director of security. He's Hampton's personal bodyguard. And he's reporting back to the FBI. And all he's able to tell them is, basically these guys are just feeding people. There's no real, overthrow the government. They're just saying, we have a better way. There's no... And J. Edgar Hoover wrote him back saying, look, your job depends on you finding some things that make these guys out to be just absolutely crazy revolutionaries. So the FBI was doing things like they released a bunch of racist cartoons in the name of the Black Panthers, which they didn't do, and a lot of other disinformation, stuff like that. Hoover himself was insistent that the COINTEL program destroy what the Black Panthers stand for and eradicate its serve the people program. So everything that was actually serving the people, education programs, feeding people, home improvement, all that stuff, don't let them do that anymore. And yeah, the FBI would also drum up violence and provoke gangs to kill each other. That's not good. So in early October of 1969, Fred Hampton rents this 4-bedroom apartment, and I just got some people staying there with him in it. And O'Neill, the snitch, tells his superiors that the Black Panthers' entire stockpile of firearms is there. And he even drew him a map of the apartment. So Hampton in November goes on this big speaking tour out in California. He meets with the Black Panthers National Committee, and they appointed him to the Central Committee, and he was about to take the position, as I mentioned, of Chief of Staff and the majority spokesperson for the whole Black Panther Party. And so it was. Then on the evening of December the 3rd, after the Chicago police and the Cook County State Attorney had gotten the map of the apartment from O'Neill, including where the furniture was, they sent a 14-man team to that location for a pre-dawn raid. And they were, in possession of a search warrant to search for illegal weapons. So that night, Hampton had been teaching a course at a local church, which was attended by a lot of the Black Panther members. And afterwards, they went to his apartment. Many of the Black Panthers, 7, 8 of them. William O'Neill, the snitch, was already there. By the way, don't worry about William O'Neill. He got his just desserts, kind of. In 1990, he ran out into the street and got hit by a car and was killed. Some people believe that he intentionally committed suicide. Some people think he was just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But so William O'Neill is there laying in wait because they arrived late. The group had a dinner at about midnight. O'Neill had put secobarbital into a drink that he then gave Hampton during dinner to knock him out so he would not wake up during the raid that was planned. All right? But it's a major barbiturate, secobarbital. It was marketed under the brand name Seconal. And by Eli Lilly, go Indianapolis, it would knock your butt in the dirt, okay? So he hands him that drink, and then O'Neill leaves because he knows what's going to happen. There's going to be this raid. About an hour and a half later, Hampton falls asleep mid-sentence while talking to his mother on the phone. And even though Hampton was not ever seen or known to be a drug user, the Cook County chemist later reported she ran 2 tests, each showing evidence of barbiturates in his blood. The FBI's chemist didn't find anything, of course. But anyway. So the Cook County State's attorney is the one that organized the raid. He used his own officers. Hampton had recently really read this guy the Riot Act, saying that his war on gangs was a war on black youth. But around 4 a.m, police, armed to the teeth, arrived at this particular location, and they were in 2 teams, 8 in the front, 6 in the rear, which is the end of a dirty joke. And about 45 minutes later, they just stormed the apartment. A gentleman by the name of Mark Clark, only 22 years of age. By the way, at this time, Fred Hampton is only 21 years of age. Mark Clark was sitting in the front room of the apartment with the shotgun on his lap, was supposedly doing security for the group, and the police shot him in the chest. Bye-bye. He's gone right away. When that happened, Clark's gun discharged 1 time into the ceiling. And then supposedly, even the medical examiner said this shot was fired when he had a reflexive death convulsion after being shot. This is the only shot that was fired by any of the people that were in the Black Panther Party in that apartment that evening. 1 shot. Fred Hampton, who had been drugged, as we mentioned, with barbiturates, was sleeping on a mattress in the bedroom, not a bed conventionally, just on a mattress, with his girlfriend, who was 8.5 months pregnant with their child, who would later be named Fred Hampton Jr. And police got her out of the room while Hampton was there, totally gorked out, unconscious. And then the police raiding team fired at the head of the south bedroom, which wounded Hampton in the shoulder. And according to the National Archives, upon that discovery, an officer shot him twice in the head and killed him. Fellow Black Panther Harold Bell said that he overheard the following conversation. That's Fred Hampton. Is he dead? Bring him out. He's barely alive. He'll make it. Injured Panthers said they heard 2 shots. According to Hampton supporters, the shots were fired point blank at Hampton's head. According to Johnson, an officer then said, he's good and dead now. Hampton's body was just dragged into the hallway and left there in a pool of blood. Officers directed their gunfire at the remaining Panthers who'd been in the north bedroom, sleeping in there. 4 of them were very seriously wounded, then beaten and dragged into the street. They were arrested on charges of aggravated assault and attempted murder of the officers. They were each held on $100,000 bail. So the 7 Panthers who survived the raid were indicted on charges of attempted murder, armed violence, and other weapons charges. They were subsequently dropped. During the trial, the Chicago Police Department claimed that the Panthers were the first to fire shots, but a later investigation found that the Chicago police fired between 90 and 99 shots, while the only shot from the Panthers was that single shot from the dropped shotgun. After the raid, the apartment was left unguarded, completely unguarded. And that's why there's actual video footage, film, of what's going on. When people, they had tours. They sent some members to investigate, and then a videographer went with them, a still photographer, to document everything. That footage was instrumental in proving the raid had been an assassination, and was later released as part of a 1971 documentary called The Murder of Fred Hampton. Now, after a break-in at an FBI office in Pennsylvania, the existence of COINTELPRO was revealed and reported. And when that whole thing was revealed, many activists and people in government began to suspect that the police raid and Hampton's killing were conducted by COINTELPRO. Another document that was released outlined a deal that the FBI had with the U.S. Deputy Attorney General to conceal the FBI's role in Hampton's death and the existence of COINTELPRO. Ladies and gentlemen, what happened here was the sanctioned assassination of an American citizen that the government found troubling. That is a worrisome thing. And the fact that we, as a group, as society, we're not taught about Fred Hampton in high school. Yes, I know, product of the times, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. That our government did that. We talked about the FBI, the TV show with Ed Robertson, just a few nights ago. And we kind of talked about how the FBI at the end of that series in 1974, whatever it was, 4, I think maybe 4, that the FBI had fallen out of favor. This is why. Because COINTELPRO had been going on since 1956, and it was basically J. Edgar Hoover's little clandestine hit team of anybody he didn't think was right for America. Absolutely, you can't go to Crackle, to Tubi, to Plex, to Pluto, to any site that has free streaming content and go to the documentary section. You will see 300 videos on the assassination of John F. Kennedy. You won't see one unless you see the one I mentioned from 1971 on Fred Hampton. And there should be. A press conference the next day, the police announced that its arrest team had been attacked by the violent and extremely vicious Panthers and simply defended themselves accordingly. That's all. That's all that went on there. That's all. In the second press conference 5 days later, the police leadership praised the assault team for their remarkable restraint and bravery and professional discipline. Photographic evidence was presented of the bullet holes allegedly made by shots fired by the Panthers, but reporters very quickly challenged this. An internal investigation went down, and police claimed that their colleagues on the assault team were exonerated of any wrongdoing, concluding they used unlawful means to overcome the assault. 5,000 people attended Hampton's funeral. You see some of them here in this photo. He was eulogized by Jesse Jackson, Ralph Abernathy, Martin Luther King's successor of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Jackson said, when Fred was shot in Chicago, black people in particular and decent people in general bled everywhere. On December 6th, members of the Weather Underground destroyed numerous police vehicles in a retaliatory bombing spree. Police on that day called their raid on Hampton's apartment a shootout. The Black Panthers called it a shoot-in because so many shots were fired by the police. 4 weeks after witnessing Hampton's death at the hands of the police, Johnson gave birth to their son, Fred Hampton Jr. Federal grand jury did not return indictment against any of the individuals involved with the planning or execution of the raid, including the officers involved. William O'Neill, the snitch who had given the FBI the floor plan of the apartment and drugged Hampton, later admitted his involvement in setting up the raid. He committed suicide on January 15th, 1990. Darn. Some believe he did. Some believe he was disoriented. But he ran into the street. There's a great deal of controversy about that. A lot of people believe his remorse and guilt, and it's who knows. There was an inquest. It was a federal grand jury with the results that you might have expected. The federal grand jury called the police department's raid ill-conceived and said they made a lot of errors, and they also said that the surviving Black Panthers refused to cooperate, which hampered their attempt to pursue an outcome in that. A civil rights lawsuit was brought to bear in 1970 by the survivors and relatives of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. And they sought $47 million in damages. Took years for that case to go to trial. The case lasted a year and a half. And it was dismissed against 21 of the defendants. The judge also dismissed the suit against the remaining defendants. But the plaintiffs, the relatives and survivors of Hampton and Clark, appealed that decision. And guess what? The United States Court of Appeals in the Seventh Circuit found the government withheld relevant documents, thereby obstructing the judicial process. Gee, the one thing they were afraid of and kept telling everybody was happening, that government was going to do this and do that, and we're going to be sneaky and underhanded and duplicitous, was actually happening every step of the way. They took that appeal all the way to the Supreme Court, and the court did not hear the case, but did vote to return it to the district court for a new trial. In 1982, 13 years later, the federal government agreed to a settlement that was equivalent to, it's an interesting settlement because the city of Chicago, there's one, Cook County, there's two, and the federal government, there's three. Each had to pay what's worth now $1.9 million to 9 different plaintiffs. So that's 3 times $1.9 million for each of the plaintiffs. So the settlement basically is an admission of the conspiracy And the government said, well, we just settled to avoid another trial, and it's not an admission of guilt, blah, 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 blah. Many, 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 many people, having examined all of the documents released by COINTELPRO and all of the subsequent investigations, have come to the conclusion that it is basically beyond question that Fred Hampton was assassinated intentionally in a coordinated plan to keep him quiet. You know. And that, sadly, is the story of Fred Hampton. In 1990, the Chicago City Council unanimously passed a resolution introduced by then Alderman Madeline Haythcock, commemorating December 4th, 2004 as Fred Hampton Day in Chicago. The resolution read in part, Fred Hampton, who was only 21 years old, made his mark in Chicago history not so much by his death as by the heroic efforts of his life and by his goals of empowering the most oppressed sector of Chicago's black community, bringing people into political life through participation in their own freedom-fighting organization. Fred Hampton. Whether you agreed or disagreed, 21-year-old man, and anytime the folks out there try to tell you, oh, our government would never do that. Really? Never? Never? Never's a long time. I'm going to read your comments, and then we're going to the phone lines. Let's see here. Portia says, Tom, I miss you. Thank you so much for your graciousness during this holiday seasons and well before. Your presence is legendary. You made a huge impact on my life. I can't possibly have made an impact on your life. And if more of you people would get PayPal, I'm not trying on new payment, Venmo, Cash App, Money Now, Pay Me, PayPal. Just can't argue with drunks that are going to just scream and yell. Just can't do it. Well, I will not debase myself that well. I will not legitimize that behavior. Can't do it. Everybody else there is super cool, though. And I do watch from time to time. Oh, yes. I was telling Stanley, I watched I'm going to play a clip, but I'm going to put an overlay over the top so we don't get nailed for any sort of violations of copyright, blah, blah, blah. So that's what I'm going to do. So don't anybody freak out if that's what's happening. So let's listen to this report. 15 people were killed in New Orleans when a crazed madman drove his truck to... Hey, Stanley, something's wrong with the picture. I don't... Literally 10 seconds early. Okay. Happy New Year to you, and I thank you. No, thank you. Thank you. The Wolf says it's very cool. Drummers come on to try to play other drummers' parts of song. Scott, don't be doing that. We don't do that here. I get to do that. If you want to be the guy that does that, go find a show and do it. Maybe start your own. But that's not cool. It's super not cool. That's your only warning. Dupa says he wasn't assassinated. He fell down steps. Yeah, stairs were involved. I don't think there were any stairs. Well, there were some front steps I think I've seen in the video, but once you got in there, it was a straight shot, man. No pun intended. Metal Man Vicky says, Wolf, I wrote it down and we'll check it out. Thank you. It's really good. Mud Sharks Unite says 69 for reasons I don't even know. They were very instrumental here in causing ridiculous firearms legislation, if you say so. How dare you accuse of GGL of black bag jobs? GGL. I don't watch all that right wing stuff you watch. I don't. If you use abbreviations, there's not going to be a great chance that I. I'm not socialist or communist, but I do believe our government should make sure every American is taken care of before sending 1 cent elsewhere for humanitarian aid. A lot of people feel that way. A lot of people. I just feel like if you're sending billions overseas, you're paying too much in taxes. There we go. Scott Ross says, socialism is the people. If you're afraid of socialism, you're afraid of yourself, says Fred Hampton. See, that was valuable. I will train you to be a good chat room member if it's the last thing I do. Kim Warfield says, Scott, Fred made some errors. Fred did make some errors. He had a 21-year-old kid. Come on, man. Of course he made some. There was a lot of errors to be made back then. A lot. So did MLK, but that's not the point. History proves that is the point. I don't think it's the point. I think it's a fact. To me, the thing I take out of this whole thing as the point is the government will kill you if you say too many things that it doesn't like. That's the point. I think that's the point. I think police had eaten some German chocolates. Too much Pervitine? What youth does not make mistakes, says Stanley. There you go. Stanley is right. Fred was 21 years old. That's what I said. Anyway, smarter than any 21-year-old I ever met. His history was erased with intention. We don't know what Fred would have done. You know, free breakfasts, education programs, I don't know. For people that can't afford it, I don't know. They've proven after-school programs are like a huge determining factor in kids staying in school. That's just been proven over and over and over and over again. So, you know, God. I know, Wolf, you were fully formed and made no mistakes when you were 21. I am. It's there to find if you look. Yeah, that might be. It might be. I think the COINTELPRO thing and the actual assassination of an American citizen, I don't know. Scott Rock, you know what? Talk to me about Fred Hampton? Rap music. That's the God honest truth. Cool. That is cool. Interesting, Scott. I found out about it in the library. Well, Kim, we were from a different time where we went to the library, but it doesn't matter where you find out about it, you know. Dupa says, I didn't learn about it in school either. Scott LaRock said, we don't do libraries anymore. We have the internet. And the Wolf says, I'm afraid I still do libraries. A lot of people still do the libraries. They still do. Not everything that you can find on the internet is available. Wait, that doesn't make sense. There are things that aren't on the internet that are available. So if you really want to get into something, it's best to go to a library, usually a university library, and really get in there. I got to tell you guys, I wasn't going to say anything about it. Not to get too Fred Hampton about it. I feel like I have been shot in the back, right inside, and the Wolf knows probably what I'm talking about here, right behind my scapula. Scapula? Right behind my shoulder blade. I get bursitis in this kind of rainy, cold weather. And I woke up this morning. I've been eating ibuprofen. Ibuprofen, it's my favorite flavor. And it's hurting real bad. Scott, Jay-Z and others name drop Fred Hampton. I go to Google. I get educated. Pretty cool. Wolf says, I love books. Stanley Cross says, snarkily ageist comment there, Scott. He's laughing. You know, why does everything have to be either or? Why can't it be and plus? I use the internet and plus I go to the library. I have researched not one, not two, but 3 books from a major film historian And I couldn't have done it online, okay? Because I went back into publications they don't have online in the 30s and the 20s. And I did that with the Reader's Guide to Periodical Literature, and they don't have that online. And then even if they did, they wouldn't have the magazine. And plus, not either or. Please repeat after me. And plus, not either or. We have become an either or society. Can't be doing that no more. And plus. And plus. Thank you, America. They sure do. Scott says, for the record, I'm 40 and libraries are a fantastic resource. I'm only being snarky. Well, Scott, I take back what I said to you earlier about the spoiler. I don't really take it back, but I've wiped it off your record. Scott, unfortunately, young folks are being pulled away from them in real books. Yeah. Oh, they do that. The Wolf says, I could tell you things I found that would change your hair color. All my hair? Never mind. Let's see here. Stan the Man says, Wolf, I am 60 and have traded physical books for a Kindle. Easier to carry books and backlit for insomniac reading. Wolf says, I'm 63. I will never have a Kindle. Stanley says that equals you will never read in the dark. Now, the Wolf, I did have one of my little flashlights. I got these little flashlights. You can clip them onto the front of a ball cap and then wherever you look. But I have read books like this and under my blanket as a kid, so they didn't disturb anybody because had one of my brothers as a roommate. And I think I was read a book with a flashlight in my mouth. Look, books are great if you're traveling and you don't necessarily have ready access to the internet and all that stuff. There's still a use for books. Books are still, and by the way, books to me are still somewhat of a status symbol. Not like a grandiose consumption status symbol, but an intellectual status symbol. It's like, hey, look at the things I know about. Look at the things I read. It's kind of like looking at somebody's music selection, you know. And people who don't read, I don't read books the way I used to due to the time commitment. But I probably read more than I used to, if that makes any sense, because I'm on the internet all day consuming. Ariana May says, this story reminds me of the row home fires in 85 that started with the Philly government dropping a bomb on the MOVE group. Yes, see? Exactly. Wolf says, Gordon Liddy. Oh, Pish, you love me. I'm your youngest. GGL is Ghost of Laughter. I still don't know what it means. Oh, G. Gordon Liddy. GGL. Look, man. I know what's going on out there in the world. I talk to today's youth because, you know, I like to street it up for the kids. Nobody is saying GGL anywhere. You say that. Nobody else says GGL. Please, it's not even as common as RBG. Forget the IB. You need pervitine to get relief. Oh, yeah. God, what is it with Wolf and the abbreviations today? Forget the IB. Irritable bowel? Oh, ibuprofen. You're lucky the internet and libraries rule. And plus, that's right. You're right, Stanley. I turned the lights on. Wolf says, having worked with at-risk boys, kids learn better from books. Get there learning from books. Keep folks up all night just to read your Dr. Seuss is considerate for sure. Dr. Seuss, Dick and Jane. See Spot. See Spot run. Spot is. Doopadoo says, Wolf, serious question. Do you think kids learn better from books or at-risk kids learn better from books? It's the only abbreviation I know. There's another one you know. BP. Not British Petroleum. Blind Pew. 60 isn't a boy. Man, you guys are cracking me up tonight because books don't have video games in them. The pop-up books did. Anyway, good point. Okay. That's a lot about Fred Hampton. By the way, like, share, subscribe, notification bell, retweet, all the things that help us with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-seeing algorithm. And we also have super chats. We also have memberships. And, we like it when you do those things. The Wolf, so far, is the shining star. Thank you for his $5 donation. And did it with a joke from 40 years ago. That's always good. Dupa, kids and people learn better from books. Things go better with Coca-Cola. There's Fred Hampton. And why am I showing you Fred Hampton? I hear you cry. Well, that's because I have to do something. Hold on. Sorry. Had to blow my nose. Blow my nose in just a second. The Duke of Just Do It says, any good Texas Roadhouse stories? No, I'm not the one with the long, boring Texas Roadhouse stories. That's not me. That's the guy that says I tell long, boring stories, which I would take as a criticism, even though I know it's not a criticism because I actually know how long in time things are. And that, I believe, was said as a response to the fact that I actually met Bob Ross and my stories about him weren't inflammatory enough. So that person suggested that I lie. And you can't imagine what high regard I hold people that lie. Oh, God, it's one of my favorite things on earth. And so that's the person that then, after they made the thing about long, boring stories, then I watched their show the very next day, and they went on and on about, I don't know if you've ever been to the Texas Roadhouse, Bob, but oh boy, they've got bread. And come on, man. That's the guy that also said, Bob, are they still making Salem's? Isn't it weird how it's called X now, but we all still call it Twitter? Hey, hold the phone. I didn't realize Robin Williams was criticizing my work. Anyway, I hope that answered your question, Duke of Just Do It. Who, by the way, would it kill you to get a membership? Anyway, oh man, I've got sneezy nose. I don't like that. D&D is kind of a video game book, I guess. Yes, Dungeons and Dragons. See, I know what that one is. You were showing him because of his pork chop sideburns. Yes, I'm thinking of growing some in 2025. Stanley says, Wolf, Kindle is books without the training wheels then. Without the paper cuts. Stanley, an officer in the Navy, safety first. One of those goes septic out at sea. Metalman Vicky says he has sideburns similar to Quentin Collins. Yes, Quentin's theme. Quentin's theme. It's almost like Beautiful Dreamer, but scary. Quentin was a werewolf, you know. No books are books without training wheels. Scott says, Wolf, I swear to God, I will buy you a Kindle. Doofus laughing. I'm laughing too. Scott, bless you, but it would never get used. I can attest to that. Scott says, would it help if I put porn on it? Oh, boy. Now we are getting somewhere. Wolf, I bet I have read more books. That's going to be, I would say, Stanley, that is I think that's probably a very good and equal match between you and the wolf in reading books. I think where the wolf has an upper hand is going to be the number of movies that he's watched. Yeah, he has read a tremendous amount of books. Like every book in Bracken Library. However, I don't know, Stanley, if you can match his, where's the Kindle going to go in there? That's the Wolf's media wall of all media since 1972. Every form of media that's been used. There's an 8-track in there, I'm sure. There's an old teletype. Let me see here. That is impossible. What if one of those books is Dianetics? Does that count? Of course it counts. That's one of L. Ron Hubbard's best works of fiction ever. I don't have any idea what gave me sneezy nose. All of a sudden, out of nowhere. Maybe someone's kicking up a fuss out on the prairie. It could happen. I am opening up the phone lines here in a second. She loves that wall. I mean, can I thank StreamYard again for this crappy... When you click on something, you should advance the chats as they are entered, not when you click on something. All of a sudden, they just suck. And it's only a matter of time till some better company comes along. And when they do, I'm jumping off of this rat ship as fast as I can. I'm getting ready to just do Streamlabs because they don't take nearly as much money, and I already know how to use OBS. So, Dupa loves that wall of media. I'm going to wash that media right out of my hair. I read every book from Fourth Floor of Bracken, plus every periodical from the early teens to 2000 plus. Scott The Rock says, that is an impressive collection, all things considered. Oh, you don't know the half of it, Scott. He's got like 10,000 million VHS tapes that were recorded at that. You can put 12 hours of stuff on them speed. Oh yeah, I don't hang around with 12th Man and stuff. Stanley says impossible is a word readers of use, right, Wolfie? Is a word readers. I'm trying to formulate that, but anyway, 972-994-6822 is the number to call. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Retweet. We got the money thing. Is a word readers often use. It's super chats, memberships. That's it. Scott, would you like me to send Tom pictures of my sci-fi fantasy section? Oh my God. Yeah, go ahead. Send them. Send them. What the hell? Go ahead and send them. But Fred Hampton, man, we need a Fred Hampton biopic is what we need. And I know Hollywood screws that up sometimes, but that's a story that needs to be told more and better. More and better. And if you think that's the only time that happened, or the only degree to which that happened, thanks to our good friend J. Edgar Hoover, you nuts. What's the name of that government since the beginning of time that didn't use its power against its own people eventually? Hold on, it'll come to me. Oh, yeah. The Land of Make-Believe. It's on Mr. Rogers. Wolf says, I have 60 books just on carbohydrates. Those don't really count. Uh, your weightlifting books don't count. Space porn, says Stanley Cross. And Wolf says, I have no porn. And Scott says he's not surprised. Well, he does. He refuses to give up his essence. Plus the fact he has other pervish things. Stanley Cross says, how many books on polyunsaturated fats, Wolf? He's got books on things, that's for sure. He sent me something, 972-994-6822. He sent me something earlier today that the Wolf sends me all sorts of stuff, tons of it, and I watch as much of it as I can, but I can't watch all of it. And he only asks me about the things that I haven't seen. Did you see that thing I sent you about the stuff I was talking about? And I'll be like, no. Did you see the one on the dead German? Well, yeah, I did see that one. I saw the dead German one. No tears were shed for Heinrich Hickenbackenbacken Schnagenbrichten von Gaugezeichnet. The life and death of Bobby Anderson, yes. The death of Peg Entwistle, the girl who jumped from whatever. That's just the thing. Bourbon Street. Oh, I did see that 17 most controversial films. I saved that. It showed up in my timeline too there, Wolf. Okay, I'll look at that later. I have 6 or 7. You answered that. Any books on humor? I always found those joke books a little not that funny. It'd be like the Polish joke book, and they'd be all just corny. Lady Elaine Fairchild was terrifying. Yes, and someone get that girl some Proactive. Good Lord. Come on. She went bobbing for French fries. The Wolf says, no, but I have hundreds of thousands of millions, hundreds of movies on humor. 972-994-6822 is the number to call if you'd care to talk about Fred Hampton or anything else, really. Probably not the Texas Roadhouse. Probably not that. Let's see here. Hundreds of funny movies and one joke book. Okay. I watch movies on my Kindle Fire. Been watching Dark Shadows all day, so. You can't imagine how badly I've been tempted to discuss a program that one of our longtime followers is a mod on. But I know it's too cruel and devastating to even mention. Scholar Rock says data hoarding is really easy now, but physical media hoarding is hard. It used to be hard. It's not that hard. I have 800 CDs, and they literally are in a space that big. You got to get rid of the cases, but yeah. Now my DVD and Blu-ray, that does take up some room, but not nearly as much as VHS used to, and not nearly as heavy. Oh my God, those VHS tapes. I watch movies now on my 6 cell phones. I refuse to watch a movie on a cell phone. I've got television and monitors for that. Television. We've got a bunch of superstars in the room. Metal Maiden Vicky can be seen and heard on SonicAsylumRadio.com from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturdays. That's Eastern Time, ladies and gentlemen. And Stanley Cross and Portia, who was in here earlier. Stanley can be seen on his program, Stanley versus the World, which usually starts around midnight Eastern-ish. You just got to check and see at The Urban Landlord on YouTube. And he's also there at other times during the day. So I watched this show on a Kindle Fire. I didn't know we were on Kindle. Well, all right. Hard to watch these from my bed. Remember, I have issues. Yeah, he does have issues. There's one of his issues right there. Here's another one of his issues. I found that funny. I got another one of his issues too. There, I think I got another one of his issues. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, come on. Come on. No, I don't have it. I thought I had it here. I thought I had your x-ray of your giant steel rods and your pelvi. But I don't. So I'd have to get it, and that, of course, would require work. 972-994-6822. Anxious to hear from anybody that wants to call in and let me know about all the things that I'm doing wrong and how I'm bad and they're good. And, oh, I have such a diatribe. I caught somebody being a little... Well, it was sent to me with the timestamp, so I went and saw somebody being all snitty, and like I said, there's some people that are in this chat room that follow this program that are not going to like it if I say bad things about this person. But if I were to, and I think you can probably tell because I brought it up 2 or 3 times now on this show today, I've got just devastating sarcasm and truth, the truth hammer, and I'm not gonna. I have that on a couple of other people too, that I'm not gonna, just because I don't want to bring them up. But if somebody else brings them up, oh baby, it's like I'm not gonna throw the ball up in the air and hit it out of the park. But if somebody throws me some batting practice, oh, no, we can't have you working. Don't hold back with the truth. Gonna call in town drunk level next week. You could never be that level, Stanley. You could never be that level. It would take a lobotomy. But when that person just starts screaming and then the other guy, no. Well, when you think about it, oh, by the way, that guy, how long's he been on that station? How long has he had his own freaking show and he can't get his mic volume up any higher than that? I can see for the first month, but God almighty, come on, man. You're at 20%. But that person, well, actually, when you think about it, Stanley, George Washington, he could have been a fighter pilot. What? Just the dumbest. I love it when Stanley goes, no, actually, that's the exact opposite of what actually happened. Well, yeah, I know, I get it, I know. That's another one of his tactics. No, I understand, I get it. But if you think about it, exact opposite thing. What? You didn't think about it. You just adopted it because it makes you feel better. Gilgamesh says, hell yeah, truth hammers, hell yeah. That's what I said. Yeah, I said it. I heard it. Got an open phone line here, 972-994-6822. It's amazing to me, all the Johnny Showbiz and the kid Broadways that have all these great suggestions for me. But they're too scared to dial a phone. That's why I open it up. It's for just that sort of thing. George Washington was a blue boy. I remember George Washington was a blue boy. Anyway, okay, 6 more minutes and then I'm out of here. Even the idiots like Lasagna Killer. I love that. What was that guy's the black Defy guy? He's like, no, no, HB, that guy is just a complete idiot. Yeah, but a lot of the things he says, you mean the guy that is never had sex without paying for it, that advocates paying for sex? That guy is some of his points make a lot. Nothing he says makes any sense. Not one word. Do you notice I don't really, if I had somebody like on him, like on the show, I would challenge the crap out of him and ridicule the crap out of him. But there's a certain, hey, he gets views. Those are empty views. I don't need empty. We need people that support us is what we need. And 20 of those people are worth 1,000 people that do nothing. Just saying. Wolf says, I'm not calling. It's somebody else's turn to make an absolute fool of themselves. That's right. That's right, Wolf. It's someone else's job. Scott LaRock says, I'll lay off NEAS stuff after this, but did he ever tell you why you were orange to start? Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Scott. My orange rating was because I don't think he was sure, but I also understand it was an error. It was like a clerical error, and he admits it on one of the shows. He says, hey, we screwed up. And that's how I became green rated forever. Or as we like to call it here in Tom Gully land, certified stone green. And Chris himself is the one that quoted that made that phrase. He goes, you're stone green. You're green forever now. So, and I believe I'm, to this day, the only stone green. Take a German chocolate and I'll call in. Yeah, let me get right on that. Scott says, okay, I'm glad you're proud of it. You should be. I am proud of it. And Matt Connerton always,
well, I was the first green host. I was the first green host.
Yeah, were you the first green forever, never going to be anything else host? I didn't think so. Go back to talking about garlic knots on a 50-watt radio station, you hump. I have harmonica amps that put out more power than your radio station. The Wolf says, I wouldn't be caught dead in red. I'd rather be seen in green. Well, red is Arsenal's color, so I can't exactly say that. But you see, here's the only thing about certified stone green. Some people associate that with marijuana, and I'm not associated with marijuana. So I kind of sometimes don't like to, but since we're all buds here, 972-994-6822, it's right down there in the crawl. You know, what are you going to do? Kid ain't got no mother. You know what I mean? Hey, what are you going to do? The kid ain't got no mother. That's what I'm saying. The kid ain't got no mother. I ever tell you guys about the kid ain't got no mother? Since I have a few minutes here, nobody's calling in, I'm gonna. Scott LaRock is espousing a, I guess, tax-related belief. We're all buds. We are all buds. Melmain Vicky says, you hump. I haven't heard that phrase in a long time. Oh, wait till I break out, you mook. Mook is another one. Hump and mook are good ones. So, my very first job at an ad agency, biggest ad agency in Indiana, which is kind of like best hockey player in Ecuador, but it was big for me. I was excited. Hey, bud, let's party. And when I get there, they have a guy that's like a jack of all trades. He's mostly the mailroom guy, but he'd make deliveries and any little sort of weird project that needed to be done, he would do that. But he's mostly the mailroom guy, which was important back then. Very important. And deliveries and all that. You know, printing and various things. I'd rather hear lines from Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag. You're not going to. So this guy's name was Randy Ramos. And Randy, excuse me, Randy was from New York. He's a Puerto Rican guy. And he had been a heroin addict, but he cleaned himself up. The woman he had a child with, a little girl named Nikki, and the mom ran out on them both. So he's a single, and he's old. He's in his late 40s, and he's got like an 8-year-old girl, and he's trying to raise her up, or 10 or something like that. And he would always tell us these stories. And the stories would be like, hey, Randy, what's going on? You look a little down. He's like, I don't know. You know, Nikki, she went to school the other day, and she got a couple of girls. And I don't know if they're friends, but they hang out, you know. And she's at the bus stop, and one of the other girls made fun of her backpack. Well, one thing led to another, and apparently Nikki poked her in the eye with a protractor, and she had to go to an eye surgeon. You know, but what are you going to do? The kid ain't got no mother. And that began a series, and I mean a series of stories that all started out with the Randy Ramos Nikki story. Is the very set structure for those stories. Open up with innocent tale of Nikki and her friends doing things. Middle of the story is one of the friends had transgressed an unknown, imperceptible, some would say not even existent line of demarcation in terms of an insult. And the last part of the story, next to last actually, was Nikki horribly disfiguring the other child. And then the very last part of the story was always, hey, what are you going to do? The kid ain't got no mother, you know? Hey, what are you going to do? Kid ain't got no mother. And that is now something that many of my friends and I will use as a, you know, well, we took the car in. There was something wrong with the computer code. They're going to keep it over the weekend, but they say a lot of times that code can't be replaced, and we'll have to put a whole new computer system in. But what are you going to do? The kid ain't got no mother, you know? It's just one of those unavoidable things. 972-994-6822. Metal Main Vicky says, I haven't seen that movie in a long time. It was funny. Wolf says it is funny. Tim Jenkinson says she sounds like a character Joe Pesci would play. Well, Randy Ramos, and it would be. He was really funny. Early in his life, he had worked in Vegas, like as a lounge singer and stuff. And he would, man, at company parties, she gets up early for dinner at 8. Don't mind the theater and never comes late. She never bothers. And, you know, all the big flourishes and everything. And he knew lots and lots of jokes. You know, what 5 words do every Puerto Rican hear before he dies? Will the defendant please rise? You know, he was a character. He was a great guy. Okay, if you really want to know, the first time I ever, I worked at this agency as an intern, and I busted my ass, man. And I knew I had to, because getting a job in creative back then was difficult. You had to be really, I'm telling you. And so I was this sort of prodigy, because I'd been writing radio commercials for 4 or 5 years, and I was just knocking out these things for Pizza Hut, and they're loving them, and so they hire me. Actually, they hired me on my 4th day, but they didn't bother to tell me until the end of my internship. The guy that was supposed to tell me was the guy who was like beating me to death with jobs to do and abuse, and in a good way, in a Vince Lombardi way. So it's my first day as an official employee, and I get this little tiny office. And Randy comes in, and he's a little guy, and I'm a giant guy. And he comes in, and he's like, "Hey, I think it's great they hired you. Best thing they ever did. I always liked you, kid. Anything you need, anything you want. You don't go talk to these fishwives around here. You don't go talk to that office manager. You come see Randy. I'm your guy. You want it? I got it. You need it? I have it, okay? Whatever you want, I'll do for you." Well, I don't need that typewriter over there. What? You can't lift it? They'd given me an electric typewriter, like a Selectric, and there was an old school regular typewriter there that weighed like 50 or 60 pounds just in the corner on the floor. Well, I don't need that typewriter. What? You can't lift it? Randy, I haven't thought about him in ages. He started a restaurant with an African-American gentleman called Nacho Mama's. It was half Puerto Rican and half soul food. And it was in this little park on the south side of Indianapolis. It was wasn't a restaurant. It was like one of those places you'd go up to and order at the window kind of place, and then you go eat it in the park. Anyway. Wolf says everybody's got to have a guy. I have lived in towns before where I know somebody that's working at the agency, and they're from that town, born and raised. And hey, I need a good mechanic here in town. Can you recommend anybody? I just take it to the dealership. You've lived in St. Louis your whole life, and you don't have a guy? If you were in Indianapolis, I've not lived there for ages, and I got a guy there. Where can I get my hair cut? I don't know. I just go over to the blah, blah, blah. You don't got a guy? What? Gotta have a guy. Randy hasn't been here for a while. Randy Ramos? Randy, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not paying that much attention to the show tonight. Now that the important part's over, the Fred Hampton. All right. I've left this phone line open enough. I don't think that I can be accused of not letting people have access. Oh, you're talking about the chef. The chef was just here soon ago. All right, I'd like to give out a special thanks to our one donation today. That's from the Wolf, $5. You got to let me pay you back somehow. I don't know how that'll be. It was somebody's calling in. It's John Shadow. I hear you. I got you. Okay. Hey, hi, and welcome to the Tom Gully Show. You're on the air.
Hey. This is Yanni Seattle. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Hey, I hit that like button. I'm doing my best.
I appreciate that, man. I totally appreciate that.
Could you feel it when I stomped on that, when I mashed it? Could you feel it?
Yes. They always want you to mash the like button, and I'm like, well, won't that keep you from using it on the next show that you like? I don't want to mash it.
Oh, Tom, there's only one show we like, and that's your show. That's the idea, right?
Yeah, yeah. Wolf's very happy.
I liked your Fred Hampton stuff.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that very
yeah.
much. Hey,
all that COINTELPRO. Yeah.
I'm thinking about doing a show on the Tate LaBianca murders, and do you know of anybody I could get to be a guest host for that?
Well, it depends on what kind of show you want.
Is he still doing? Is he still doing a show?
I'm pretty sure he must be. If you Googled him and all that stuff, I'm pretty sure that he's probably doing a show. But there are others out there who also put up a show, and they're pretty decent. They're pretty nice.
Here we go.
So if you're still into it. If you're still into it. But you got to wait for the anniversary, don't you?
No, I don't know. Let's see. Anybody miss? This is on Reddit. Anybody miss Brian Davis? He used to get so hyped up. Oh, here we go. Tate LaBianca radio program. Oh, but it's on X.
Oh yeah. I don't hang out on X myself, so.
Man, he is. I don't know how anybody can take him seriously. He.
Although Tom, the X is it works though, right? Because you X yourself out of.
Yeah.
That was Charlie's line, right? I'm going to X myself out.
I think he was doing a show with some girl. He came back and started doing it with some girl, and I'm like, well, that won't last. It never does. It never ever lasts. Tana Laufenberg.
Yeah. I listened to her. I listened to a couple of those shows, and she was fine. But there are other people out there now doing those shows, and I think that whole true crime genre is really cool. But man, back in 2011, if you knew what you were doing, you really had a chance to kind of build up a thing on true crime, right?
Yeah.
That was the time to jump in and really go at it. But you have to do more than one case. You can't just do, unless you got new material coming all the time, right?
Well, there was a thing where he had that website, and again, apparently his ex-wife owned it or was paying for it, and then she stopped. And I mean, he's gotten some good people on there, but man, if you just look into his background, the credibility level and all of his vendettas against Stoner Van Houten and all the rest of them, it's just, God almighty. It's just a lot to sift through there.
What's your favorite true crime story?
Story or podcast? Or there's a couple well, mine are the unsolved ones. The Burger Chef murders, in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I don't think they're ever going to solve that. The Springfield 3. The 3 women that went missing in Springfield. Stuff like that, probably. Oh, I can tell you, have you, and I may have mentioned this to you before, I know I've mentioned it on the show. Have you gone to the Cold podcast?
No.
Okay.
I missed that.
You will love it. It's the whole Josh Powell and Susan Powell thing. The guy that took his kids out in the desert in middle of the night and then blew up the house and all that. Yeah. That couple, and especially Josh, audio taped everything, videotaped everything, kept journals on everything.
Yeah.
And so it's like 14 episodes or something. I think the Cold podcast has done 2 more different crimes. But if you go to that first one, you will really like it. You will super like it. It's at thecoldpodcast.com.
Yep. Okay. All right. I'll give that a listen. Do you when you go back and you look at stuff, right? How much time do you have to really go in depth on stuff? Because I know you've got you have to put a show on every night, 5 or 6 days a week.
Yeah, I try to tell the story in an hour. And it's normally less than that, but I don't. If I wanted to go deep into a subject, I could take 5 nights and do it. I do a lot of research. I do enough research to do 5, but then I try just to hit the high points of everything. Sure. And I kind of feel like if people want more than that, then they can go find it. And hopefully I'm turning them on to a subject that they're really interested in. For instance, when I did the Weather Underground, the documentary on the Weather Underground is going to do a better job than I ever could. But if I can point them that direction, then I've done a little bit of a service, and maybe people can. Hopefully, they're not watching this show. Hopefully, they're listening to it, and they can go from there. So
that's always the hard line, because I remember listening to an author who had written a book. I forgot what the case was, but he or she, they were very upset because he wrote the book. Instead of people buying the books, people would come along and do a podcast where they took out all the interesting stuff.
Yeah.
and made it so you don't have. And I've always kind of felt for somebody who spent 5-10 years on researching it and all that. It's kind of. I kind of like your approach, where unless you were to bring somebody on as a guest, right?
Right.
That's different, right? And they're going to pitch their stuff, but they'll release to you what they feel comfortable releasing. So you still need to go buy the book or whatever, right?
Yeah, I would say that's accurate. If I can have the author on, then they can tell whatever, and we can tease the book a little bit. We're never going to be able to do the whole thing in an hour anyway.
Right.
I also get most of my material from independent sources. So maybe I see a video about something or a documentary, and if I do, I always say, hey, if you're interested in this, go to that.
Right.
So it's a fine line, but I think a lot of people that are writing novels and doing things like that nowadays, they're doing podcasts. There's still a lot of authors out there, and I obviously have a lot of them, and you could not do Men of Action by Ed Robertson, which is available wherever fine books are sold, or the FBI dossier, which has 900 pages. You couldn't do that in a podcast, but you can get people into it. Metal Maiden Vicky says, my friend Alex is big on true crime, etc. Quite knowledgeable. Here's another one, and this isn't unsolved, but it's the Tony Kuritzis. Did you know about Tony Kuritzis?
No.
Okay, so Tony Kuritzis, and there's a documentary, I think it's called Dead Man's Wire or Dead Man's Line or something like that. But Tony Kuritzis was a guy that thought he was being swindled by a mortgage company in Indianapolis in the late 70s, and went down to the mortgage company, wrapped a shotgun around a guy's neck that was tied to a wire, to a trigger, and was followed down the street by the press, and held a press conference that he demanded that would be broken into on not live TV. And so there you saw a guy with a dude that had a shotgun to his neck that was, if anybody had pushed him, shot him, done anything, that was going to go off. And look into that. That whole thing's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
It was it reminds you later on, a few years after that, was the pizza guy case. And then you find out the true story. Remember the guy with the who posed? Yeah. And he had that funny device around him. And then the story that you learn about on that. One exception I would say, and this is just me, but if a book is 20 to 25 years old, then I would feel okay about going more in depth and stuff. At that point.
So the pizza guy thing, it's one of those things. I've seen so many little documentaries and stuff on it. The actual story, what did that end up being? Was he kind of involved with it, or? Yeah.
He was partially involved, but he was involved, but he didn't realize. What's the old quote? I'm just a patsy type of thing. Well, it's one of those deals, right?
He didn't. He didn't realize it was going to work that well.
Yeah, and then once you're in it, then once you've got that damn thing around your neck, you're screwed, right? You can't. You're not going to pay a lot.
There's no backing out now.
No, but yeah. Yeah, but I really appreciate because you're coming on, and every night you're trying to bring stuff out, and it's not easy because material is not easy to bring up.
Well, no, and if you've seen my subject matter, I literally have a neighbor that has an Oxford English dictionary, and they just start fanning the pages, and I throw a dart. And that's how I pick the next night's topic. Tomorrow night's going to be overrated, underrated again. So that's always fun. People seem to like that.
Oh, in fact, what was interesting is when you bring back when Ed Robinson ever comes back, there was a guy who used to have a website on David Jansen, and it was the most in depth. At one point, he must have had access to a diary and letters and stuff like that. But the guy literally was trying to track day by day David Jansen's life. I'm a huge David Jansen fan.
I guarantee you Ed knows that person or knows
yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
do
yeah,
have to get with Ed. I mean, I've got all these grandiose plans for next week. I feel like this week is still the holidays and you can't bother people. But
Sure. Oh,
Ed,
yeah.
Ed and I have a plan where he's going to be back on this show and I'm going to go on his show. We're gonna trade back and forth, home and away, and see how that goes. But yeah, big
crossover shows are always good.
Well, that's what he's saying. It's just like the old TV shows. This will be a crossover, so ought to be pretty cool.
I know he did the Rockford Files. He did David Jansen, The Fugitive.
Yeah.
There was a
Maverick.
I think there was another one. Maverick.
Maverick.
Yeah. That was the other one.
Yeah, and he's had involvement in some other things too. He's just a really great historian and author, and he has his own show and podcast, TV Confidential. So check that out.
Oh yeah, that's been around for a long time. That was one of the first. I think that was one of the first web shows. I remember seeing that years ago. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's really good, really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, my friend, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for putting up the stuff, and it was very interesting.
Thank you, and I appreciate your support.
All right, Tom. And you have a wonderful day, okay?
You do the same, my man.
All right, bud.
Bye-bye. Johnny Seattle from back in the day. Love hearing from Johnny Seattle. I think I'm going to close the phone lines now. How would I rate the quality of this? I'm going to give it a 4. Tell us about any audio. I don't think there's any issues, really. It just wasn't a 5 is all. I should put that in my response. Well, it just wasn't a 5. I'm sorry. It just wasn't a 5. Yeah, the Unsolved Mysteries theme. Robert Stack. And then there was Jack Palance with Believe It or Not. On this episode of Believe It or Not. And then to really sexy things up, they brought Jack Palance's daughter on screen. And it was like, that looks like Jack Palance with a wig. You're just like, is she hot? I don't think so. She just, something about her looks familiar. That's Jack Palance's. Anyway. Hey kids, it's been another fun evening here on the program. We'll be back tomorrow night with Overrated, Underrated. And I might have some surprises in there. I might trick it up a little bit. Occasionally I like to trick things up. But I would like to thank the Wolf for his kind donation this evening. I'd like to thank the rest of you for being here. Anything you can do to share the show around. We need some more subscribers. Yeah, let's bring it in. Let's bring it in. We're just having a nice time. So with all that being said, I think, personally, that the only thing left to say goodbye, Daddy. Goodbye, Daddy. Is till next time. We'll see you next time.